So today I thought I'd do a bit of an update with Draftkings because there was some new news that came out about it and a bit of a recap of some news from a conference that Jason Robins attended earlier this week. So for me, obviously Draftkings is quite an important stock because it's the stock that is my largest position in my portfolio. I think Draftkings has a very good future in the next 10 years. So I think a lot of you guys follow me for Draftkings and talking about that one, so I thought, you know what, we've got some good news here to talk about. Draftkings will do that. And I was also 50-50 about talking about some of the stocks at the moment, especially them Chinese stocks. Alibaba in particular is making some good moves at the moment, so I was very close to doing a video on that today, but might save that for tomorrow. But yeah, getting on to Draftkings. As well as that, Draftkings is actually having a pretty good time at the moment. Since we kind of bottomed out earlier this month, there's a few stocks at the moment putting a very good rebound in. Draftkings being one of them. Since the 11th of May, Draftkings is actually up 38%. So this is a big thing when you have a lot of these stocks that have gone through this bear market, this stock market crash, and they are just so, compressed down, and we haven't even really had much of a rally yet. You start imagining what these small caps are going to do when we actually have a stock market rally. They're so compressed that they just slingshot upwards so quickly. And like I said, this is without the stock market actually having such a major rally yet. You start putting the indexes back at all-time highs. This is how quickly this can rebound. So a little bit of news there that is obviously a bit in the short term, whereas I'm more focused on the long term, but thought it was worth pointing that one out. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is this. So if you go on the actual investor relations for Draftkings, you'll be able to find this and listen to it. So Draftkings, or Jason Robins, the founder and CEO, attended the Goldman Sachs Travel and Leisure Conference. And I've got 5 or 6 points that were interesting, some that we mentioned before, some that we haven't, and I thought I'd just spend a minute or two talking about them things that he mentioned in this conference, which was about half an hour long. So these are some of the points that I took away from the half an hour that Jason Robins spoke about. So first of all, very interesting start. He tried to aim this very much to the people that are negative or bearish on the company without saying so that this is for the people that are negative. But 2 years ago, he attended the same conference. And when he attended the conference, one of the key talking points was very much early in the kind of pre-expansion where a lot of this sports betting started expanding so rapidly. In the last 2 years, we know that sports betting has really just come from this like New Jersey state to now starting to push into the 30% of population. And 2 years ago, Draftkings was in a bit of a stage where it was like, okay, how much success can you have in New Jersey, and will that translate to the national US country? Will Draftkings be able to keep that market share throughout the US when more and more states come online? What are you going to do? And a lot of questions were, can Draftkings be successful? Can they compete against some of the major established players that are coming to get into this market? Now, obviously, we're 2 years on and we know Draftkings is one of the major players in this space. We know that basically them and FanDuel are going to be running this space. So from 2 years ago, when a lot of the negativity was, can Draftkings keep this up and go all across the US with it? The answer is yes. They've taken very good market share. The US TAM for sports betting has grown even bigger than what we expected and is rapidly growing a lot faster as well. So from 2 years ago, it was a bit of a dig at the bears going, you said we couldn't do this 2 years ago and we've done it. Now, the next thing was pushing the questions that I get asked, now quite often is, can we make profit? That's what everyone wants to speak about Draftkings. That's what the negativity is. Can Draftkings make profit? And basically, we will be able to do that in the coming few years. When you look at what we've achieved already, we have the path to profitability. And it was a bit like, 2 years time, we'll come back to this and we'll be talking about once again another victory for, Draftkings. The next thing is, Draftkings have always stated what their plan is, how they're going to achieve it, and this is what we're going to do. They've always stated that they're going to make profit in 2 to 3 years of a state launching, and that's been what they've been saying for such a long time through, since they've launched, since they were a public company as well. And what has been evident of that is that when you look at all the states they've launched in, all of them states have followed the game plan of that in 2 to 3 years they make profit. and they keep repeating this model that's proven, which is great. Credit to the management team that they say they're going to do something and they follow through with it. And the scary thing is that even now, some of these states, because they're learning more and more, they've got their own their own tech coming into the company now. They're able to save a bit of money on a lot of advertising costs now. Is that this 2 to 3 year timeline is starting to squeeze a bit more down to the 1 to 2 years, which is the even more crazy thing as well. Next thing, New Jersey. New Jersey is always the key one. It's always been the story of how Draftkings is going to be successful. And New Jersey is classed as the mature state because it's the state that's been operating the longest. Even though it's still very young, it's only been launched 4 or 5 years. It's still a very young state, but that one gets called the mature state because it's the one that's been running the longest. Now, New Jersey is profitable, which is great. But as well as that is that this mature state, the state that's very much into its lifespan now, 4 or 5 years old, a lot more of the mature one, you would expect the growth of this to really start slowing down. Now, the thing with New Jersey is that New Jersey in 2020 grew 100%, which is fantastic. Now, you might say, well, that was because of the CV situation. Well, even on that number growth or even that tough comparison, in 2021, Draftkings thought there's no way we're going to carry on growing this New Jersey state at crazy rates. And even with them numbers, in 2021, New Jersey still grew 30% or over 30%. So these states that come online don't slow down in growth. In fact, they come profitable and their growth is still very, very strong, even when the mature states start coming. So when you think about in the next few years, a lot of the states now are going to be the profit drivers for the company. The thing is, these profit drivers in the next few years will also still be ramping up or contributing a lot of revenue growth as well, which is the scary. So when people always ask me, like, when I'm investing for Draftkings for the next kind of 2 to 5 years, because that's what my normal time frame. The tricky thing is Draftkings is that even in 5 years' time of investing into this company, I'm still going to be nowhere near the mature peak of Draftkings. Like, they're still going to be very much in a growth stage in the next 5 years. That's why I say for this one, this has got to be, obviously if the price is right, I'd be willing to sell, but to see the max potential of this stock, I do think I've got to hold this for a very long time to, keep getting all the rewards in from the growth that this company will have, which is exciting, obviously. The next thing is economic downturn or inflation environment. Draftkings has seen no effect or no data to support any slowdown at the moment with the business. So you've seen a few people worried about, okay, are people spending less money? Are we going to receive less money? Will this affect us as a business? Draftkings at the moment is seeing, and this is historically proven as well, is this sort of space really does not see any slowdown, even when we have an economic downturn, which is obviously going on right now, which is obviously very positive as well. GNOG, talks about GNOG slightly for a little bit. A point that is very interesting, which I've not really actually spoke about, is that obviously GNOG brings in a different set of people that would probably use Draftkings normally, because obviously they've got all the GNOG customers. But as well as that is having two different brandings now, so having the Draftkings and the GNOG brand. GNOG is actually going to bring in a lot of non-sports fans, and at the moment Draftkings is associated with sports, and people go, okay, the product might be good, but I don't want to use Draftkings because it's obviously more orientated around sports. And obviously Draftkings can cross-sell between sports and iGaming and everything like that, and casino and slot games. But GNOG will naturally attract people that are not sports betting to come into them, and potentially they now can get clients that would not normally come to them, which is great. And as well as that, with the GNOG platform, is that when the GNOG platform also brings in more of a kind of gender split and also a bit more of an age range as well. So this is going to bring in a customer base that they have previously have been struggling to tap a little bit, them non-sports fans, and they've also got a bit of data to prove this, that they can now advertise and bring in them people that won't normally come into the platform, which is great of having another brand like GNOG. Next thing, new states are coming. So there's going to be a lot of new states coming soon. Obviously, a lot of them new states will be the growth drivers in the future. But as well as that, the 3 largest states in the US are still not online. So you think about when these new states, especially like Cali, if California comes online, which also has a pretty decent tax rate by the sound of it, that starts coming online. That's going to be a massive growth driver in the next few years, and obviously Texas, for example, as well. So yeah, it's exciting to see that even the biggest markets yet aren't online, and it's still putting in these amounts of growth. When you add in these kind of big markets that potentially could come, it's going to be interesting. And the last one is that there's going to be no cash or capital needed. Now, one of the big things that bears quite often news about it is the cash burn that they have at the moment. And Jason Robbins says, look, we've run different scenarios, unless it's a black swan event where, like the sports events or, like the CV times, a lot of the sporting calendars, cancelled. We don't need any cash or capital. We are able to now get to a point where we'll be able to drive profit from the states that we do have, and we'll be okay from raising cash, which is brilliant, especially in this environment that we're in right now, which is great. And the other thing is that even if worst case scenario, something did come on, happen now, we can easily start, trimming back the marketing spend. So, that is obviously great to see that there. That one of the big worries that you have potentially with a company that's burning through a bit of money is there going to be a capital raise, and seeing that we'll be okay. So obviously that's a very positive news as well as a shareholder. So those are some key things that I took away from the conference that Draftkings did attend. So yeah, just wanted to update you guys. I know a few of you guys are following me for Draftkings, and obviously it means a lot to me as well, this investment. So yeah, thought I'd share that news with you. Some things that we kind of knew already, and a couple of new things in there as well, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the little recap in Draftkings. If you could, hit the like button. If you're new, subscribe, and I will potentially maybe talk about the stock market and some of those Chinese stocks tomorrow, maybe, unless anything crazy happens in the next few hours. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in a bit.